Hi everyone. In this video, we'll be reviewing how to add recipes to CakeBoss. In this video, I'll refer frequently to the video on master ingredients, so please do check out the master ingredients video before viewing this one, and hopefully everything will make a little more sense that way. So to add a recipe in CakeBoss, we click the Recipes tab. This will take you to the list of all your CakeBoss recipes. Now, before we add a recipe, real quickly, I wanted to show you a new feature for CakeBoss Cloud called Import Recipes. You can click this button to import recipes that are shared by other users. We've gone ahead and created some of the most popular recipes for bakers and shared them with you so you can get started even faster. Just put a check mark by the recipes you want to import and click Import Recipes. So when you import those recipes and go back to your recipe list, you can see they've been added, and you can now open those recipes in your own file and edit them however you like to make them your own. So on to adding a new recipe. We click Create New on the main recipe list. The first thing we do is name our recipe, and I'm going to call it Test Cake, and select a category for your recipe. If you don't have an existing category for your recipe, you can add a category at this time. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Add. So after you've added this information, you're taken to the recipe information screen. You can see the title that I just added has the recipe name. The description is optional, and I'll just add a quick one here. You can add the number of servings for this recipe if you know it, but this field is optional. The customer price field is used when you know exactly how much you want to charge for this item, for example, like an apple pie. To find out more about the customer price, check out the video on fixed price items. If this is not going to be a fixed price item, just go ahead and leave this field blank right now. So I'm going to flip over to the Ingredients tab. On the Ingredients tab, you'll see three fields: Ingredient, Quantity, and Measure Type. This is how you add ingredients to your recipe. In the Ingredient field, start typing the name of the ingredient you are adding, and all the recipes containing that string of letters will appear below. For instance, if I type AP, then below we'll see apples dried, apricots dried, evaporated milk, and paprika. When you've typed enough to see the ingredient that you're adding, click or tap the ingredient, or use the arrows on your keyboard to move down and press Enter to select it. Next is the Quantity field. Enter a number, a decimal, or a fraction for how many you'll be adding to the recipe. So let's say I'm adding 2 3/4 cups. I'll type 2 space 3-4. Or I could type 2.75, and then tab to the Measure Type field. Measure type is your unit of measurement, like cups, grams, ounces, teaspoons, etc. In this case, I'm adding 2 3/4 cups, so I'll type cups and then click Add Ingredient. Now below you'll see that 2 3/4 cups of dried apples have been added to the recipe, and the price is automatically filled in from the prices in my master ingredients. If you need to make a change to the quantity or measurement of the ingredient after you've entered it, just click the Edit button to open those fields. Let's say I made a change to my recipe, and now I want 10 ounces of dried apples. I'll type 10 OZ for ounces and then just click Update. And when I clicked Update, you'll see that the price updated, again based on the price in the master ingredients. Now, say you had entered your dried apples and then you remembered that the price had gone up the last time you bought it. You can edit the master ingredient for dried apples by clicking Edit Pricing. This brings up the master ingredient for dried apples, and you can now change any information. I will change the price to $7.99 for 16 ounces. And when I press Save and return to the recipe, you'll see that the price for 10 ounces of dried apples has been updated accordingly. Now say I want to add an ingredient to my recipe that does not yet exist in the master ingredients. I will add lemon juice. When I start typing lemon, it pulls up all the ingredients containing the word lemon. And you'll notice that lemon juice is not one of my master ingredients yet. So just continue typing the ingredient and move to the next field. And continue adding as you would any other ingredient. Let's say I'm adding 1 ounce of lemon juice. And then click Add Ingredient. And when I clicked Add Ingredient, you'll see that there's a pop-up window prompting me to add my purchase information for lemon juice. If I want to skip that, I can just press Save and 1 ounce of lemon juice will be added for $0. If I was ready to add pricing, I would enter the purchase quantity and the price, 16 ounces for $1.99, with my regular size being ounces. And you'll see, since I saved it, the pricing information is now displayed in the recipe. When you are adding your ingredients, if you use a measurement type that is not one of the available converters, CakeBoss will display 0 for the price. I'll demonstrate with vanilla. And let's say I add 2 drops of vanilla to the recipe. So vanilla has been added to the recipe, but the price is 0 because drop is not a recognized measurement type. Click the Edit Pricing button to open this ingredient and see the available measurements. The available measurements are listed under Measure Type in the left column. Since vanilla has special converters, the available measurement types are milliliters, grams, teaspoons, tablespoons, cup, pound, kilogram, and gallon. So I will close that and edit vanilla and change 2 drops to 1/2 teaspoon. And when I click Update, you'll now see that vanilla is priced according to the master ingredient. Now I'm going to add salt to this recipe. You can add your quantity in whole numbers, fractions, or decimals. If you use letters or symbols in the quantity field, you will receive an error message. So if I type a scant teaspoon and add ingredient, you'll see the message quantity specified is not fractionable and cannot be used. This means that I need to use a number in the quantity field. So if I change that to 1/8 and add the ingredient, then the ingredient is able to be added and priced. So let me quickly add a few more existing ingredients so you can see how quickly this goes using CakeBoss's preloaded ingredients and ingredient prices. I'm going to add 1 3/4 cup sugar. I'll type 1.75 to show you can use decimals. And 2 cups butter. And you can see how this process goes very quickly. Now if we flip over to the Directions tab, this is where you would enter directions for the recipe. I'll make sure to save my recipe. Now you can multiply this recipe by any quantity. Say that I wanted to multiply this recipe times 3. You'll see currently the cost is $6.48. When I multiply it, I now have a recipe called Test Cake times 3, and the cost is $19.45. You can also use the multiply feature to divide. Say you wanted to make half of your test cake recipe, you could enter 0.5, and when you multiply that by 1/2, you have test cake times 1/2, and you'll see that the new cost is 1/2 the original cost. You can also copy any recipe. Say you have a very similar recipe with only 1 or 2 ingredients changed. Very quickly you can make a copy of this recipe, which is now called copy of test cake times 1/2. You can rename that to anything you like, and you can make any changes to the ingredients, and now you have a separate recipe. As with all reports in CakeBoss Cloud, you can print or export by clicking Print or Export. And when we do that, we see the print layout of the recipe. Here is the print icon up at the top right, and here is where you would export this if you wanted to export it to a PDF or a CSV file.